I'll explain the format real quickly. It should be pretty straightforward. By random draw, Pulse will be asked the first question. Since this is their only debate, we are going to let the ASSG candidates go first. They're seated up here. When the question's asked to the ticket, you can answer from your spot. You can come up to the podiums. One person can answer, several people can answer. Just stay within your time limit. The time limit is 3 minutes to the ticket that's asked the question. So, for example, Pulse gets the first question. They'll have 3 minutes to address that question. Inspire will then have 2 minutes to respond to it in any way they desire. The next question will be directed to Inspire. They'll have 3 minutes. Pulse will get to respond in 2 minutes. When all 4 questions to the ASSG candidates have been asked, each ticket will have 2 minutes just to clarify, reiterate, anything that they want within reason. For those 2 minutes, they'll have a chance just to restate something. Are there any questions from candidates, campaign managers? Nope. All right. Well, then we'll get started. Huh? Yep. So what we're going to ask first, since Pulse is going first, we'll ask you to start this. Give a quick introduction. Give your name, give the position you're running for, and in 30 seconds, I know this is tough, state why you're running. Just a quick why this matters to you. Okay?
My name is Tony Bay. I'm running for Arts and Sciences Student Government, and I'm trying to be as involved as possible on this campus and do the best I can to help this campus.
My name is David Zimmerman, and I'm running for ASSG representative, and I'm running because I'm very passionate about a lot of things.
I'm Melissa McFarland. I'm an ASSG representative, and I like to help students, and I think that by doing this, it will help the community and the school.
My name is Jerome Castiglione, and I am running for Arts and Sciences Student Government, and I am on this ticket because I feel that it is important that students' voices get heard.
Okay, my name is Magnolia Landa. I am running for an ASSG representative, and the reason I'm here is because I believe that everyone should get a chance to see difference while they're here.
And now, please inspire candidates.
I'm Ashley Prince. I'm running for ASSG representative. Living down the street from the school I've looked up to my entire life. So now I'm here and I want to make a difference at this school.
My name is Tyler Hallmark, and I'm running for ASSG representative. And I've been very involved on campus, so I bring a lot of different viewpoints to the position.
My name is Coco Wong. I'm running for Arts and Sciences representative, and as the only freshman on this ballot, I'm very passionate about making everyone's voice heard.
We also have 2 more representatives who aren't able to make it due to sicknesses.
Would you like to say anything for them on their behalf right now?
Yeah, there's Brian Ruddle and Katie Lemus.
Great. Thank you. You'll have a seat. Now we'll get started. The first question, like we said, through random draw, we'll go to Pulse. You have 3 minutes to answer it. ASSG candidates, what do you feel is your most important responsibility to the CU student body as a member of the School of Arts and Sciences?
I think it's important that we continue to advocate for a large student body as a whole and begin to promote diversity and just support fellow students.
Absolutely. What do you feel is your most important responsibility to the CU student body as a member of the School of Arts and Sciences?
I think it's important that we listen and hear what all students have to say, and we reach out to those who are underrepresented, because they are the ones that seem to be silenced out on this campus, and I feel that their input is important as well.
Also, to add on to that, as Arts and Sciences student representatives, we do hope to continue to listen to what the public wants at this university. For instance, a Spanish minor is something that we've been trying to institute for a while, and to continue to implement policies that are popular amongst the student body.
One of our goals is not to reduce the amount of programs that we have on campus, but maintain them and make sure that they're efficient for every single student on campus.
And to do that, we will look at each program through a cost-benefit analysis, and we will look at what programs are working and how we can work with them to give them the funds that they need, while keeping student fees at a reasonable price.
Anyone else have anything to add? That question? Okay, Inspire, you have 2 minutes for the same question, or to challenge anything that you've heard.
So first off, we inspire transparency. We believe that there should not be any closed doors. And we inspire accountability. Serving in the past on ASSG, I was always at every meeting, and I believe it's important for everyone to be there and put their thoughts in on everything that comes up.
We inspire safety. We want a resolution to make more lighting everywhere. We want a resolution to make the CUPD better, more present on weekdays as well.
We also believe that student groups are very important, and to go along with this, we are going to work with CUSG to make this process a little easier for students and make the deadlines more visible. We also believe
We inspire affordability. We like to decrease student fees if possible. We work on that. And we believe every student group deserves funding.
Anything to add? All right, looks like everybody wants to get home as fast as they can to watch the presidential debates. This next question will start out to Inspire. You'll have up to 3 minutes to answer, and Pulse, you'll have 2 minutes to respond. How would you specifically work with other members of ASSG, especially those whose platform differs from your own, and what do you expect to accomplish together in the coming year? Together meaning with other members of the group.
I think no matter what platform anybody's on, we all want what's best for this school. At the end of the day, we all want a better CU as a whole. So just because we have different opinions on certain subjects means that people can come together and create a better CU.
And I believe we want to represent the student groups as much as possible. And if they come to us for funding, we want to offer them support in that and make it as easy as a process for them as possible, as well as highlight deadlines that are coming up and make those visible.
In addition to this, we also believe that compromise is very important, and we are more than open to compromise with additional platforms, and believe that working together is the only way to achieve a better CU.
Can you give an example of a compromise you'd be willing to make?
I think that at this point, we are interested in resolutions to further student groups, but we don't want to make the deadlines different, but we want to make them more visible, if that makes sense.
Anything to add? 2 minutes, Pulse. You need the question again? Okay. How would you specifically, please be specific, work with other members of ASSG, especially those whose platform differs from yours, and what do you expect to accomplish with those people in the coming year?
We do believe that CU should have voices heard, and as ASSG, we all represent different groups upon campus. And by having different standpoints by how we were raised and how we look at different opinions, we do all decide to get decisions done. So by having different cultural backgrounds and everything, we are willing to make everything work together.
And Pulse feels that communication is a big key in dealing with people you don't agree with. You have to talk to people you don't agree with. You have to come to a consensus. What's going to work and what's not going to work, and why you feel that way.
And it's often those compromises that are most important, because as a student body, we do represent a lot of different backgrounds and different opinions, and we do need to make compromises every day in order to reach a consensus that's fair for the student body as a whole. And how that applies to arts and sciences student government, we do hope to, through funding for a variety of different student groups, and represent them as a whole.
And something that Pulse endorses is, as we mentioned already, diversity. And thus we want to ensure that diversity is used to to make sure that every single person in this campus is represented.
It has sometimes been stated that the College of Arts and Sciences has what some call an unfair advantage over the other CU colleges given its size and resources. What is your response to this assertion, and how will you handle such criticism without alienating certain members of the student body? Sure, absolutely. It's been stated by certain people at certain times that the College of Arts and Sciences has an unfair advantage over the other CU colleges given its size and resources. What is your response to that assertion, and how will you handle such criticism without alienating certain members of the student body?
The College of Arts and Sciences it is large, but it represents a large portion of the campus, and we don't believe we're excluding people from any of that. We believe we can reach many groups on campus, as we've mentioned throughout this debate, that it's very diverse, and I don't believe it excludes members.
And as a part of Inspire, we are very, very fortunate to be running for ASSG because of the resources we have. But we are going to use these resources to improve CU and work with CUSG as members of ASSG, and together we will make CU a better arts and sciences school and thus a better CU.
Response?
Could you repeat the question?
Absolutely, and I'll do it in layman's terms if you want, so we can move through this. Some people claim that arts and sciences has an unfair advantage over the other CU colleges due to size and resources. What do you say to this assertion, and how can you handle such criticism without alienating people who feel this way?
I believe that it's our responsibility as arts and sciences student representatives to try to build bridges between the different colleges, because the beautiful thing about student groups is they represent a diverse amount of a student population, whereas anybody in a student group can come from any different college. And building those bridges is really important, and also having that transparency between the different colleges, because regardless of what college we identify with, we are at the end of the day CU students, and we all do want the same things for each other.
And what we want to do is support programs that integrate all of CU, not only arts and sciences students, but all of CU, and that way we can, like David said, bridge those gaps between all colleges on campus.
I think another important point would be that as ASSG representatives, we could work on making the school a much better model of how to, it's not just about resources, but making sure that they're efficient. So if we could work on making them efficient, making them attainable for everyone within the student body, we would be able to model a good system for the rest of the students to enhance and incorporate.
Anyone else? All right, that's it for the questions. So since Pulse won the draw, Inspire, you get to start. There will be 2 minutes to make a case, disagree with something your opponents have said, reiterate anything you said, or go on whatever bunny trail you want. 2 minutes.
Well, as we have talked about as we've talked about tonight, we are inspired to make CU a better place. And by doing that, we want to leave you with a few major points. The first being that we inspire to get for you to have a better value for the degree. We know that college is a huge investment, and we want you to have a better return for that investment. This includes vocational training. This includes networking, and we want to not only grow people in CU, but we want to send them out into a world that they're prepared to live in.
As Inspire, at the end of the day, everybody here wants to make CU the best it can be. We want to make sure that the students and us have great communication. We want to make sure that there's nothing behind closed doors, everything's an open policy. We want to make sure that everybody who's elected is at the meetings. We want to make sure that everybody is accounted for.
And again, we inspire safety on campus. We want, like I mentioned earlier, we like to propose a resolution for lights on the hill and resolution for CUPD to be more active on weeknights. And we inspire transparency, as we mentioned earlier. We don't believe in any closed doors.
And we want to leave you with one final thing, is what do you inspire for, and how can we help you to reach what you inspire?
2 minutes, Pulse. Same rules. Pretty much open season.
As ASSG, we want to be able to create more groups within ASSG, but also more on campus, talking about more creating those bridges like we talked about earlier with different schools. So by proposing Pulse, we would keep student fees what they are at, and looking at both platforms, we want to keep what they're at, create more groups and talk about the cost of analysis, benefit analysis, how we want to put the money that the groups that are producing more money, and then different platforms they want to lower student costs or student fees, and we want to keep them what they're at and keep producing what we can.
And we are representing Pulse as a whole, which is a history of people who are underdogs. And I mean, we represent a diverse group of students, and we're very passionate about the issues that we're going for. We really want to include safety. We want to have transparency in this process. We want to include different colleges together, especially as arts and sciences representatives. We're here to really build bridges between different student clubs and organizations to know that there are resources for them in the school. And that's what Pulse stands for, and that's what we stand for. As well as other things.
I mean,
30 seconds.
okay, so I believe we do want to be transparent, and we would like to be transparent through using social media, using the web, and making sure that we reach out to people, which is, I think, something that the other ballot has talked about, transparency and safety, but they have never put any details on exactly what it is that we want to do. As for us, for the CU Unite Ride, we've actually been working to improve that.
All right. ASSG team, it's a great job. As long as nobody needs an emergency 2-minute break, we'll ask the CUSG candidates to place their counterparts.
Good job.
While everyone's getting situated, I'll just remind anybody who came in after we announced it, there are cookies in the back and note cards for questions. We'll do an audience time participation as soon as this round is over. All right, each ticket wants to get up and stand by their platform. Since Pulse was asked the first question of the debate, the first question in the CUSG section will go to the Inspire candidates. Yep,
So
so
we're
we'll do.
continuing to take questions throughout the entire debate. Just remember when you are writing them, to either address it to Pulse, Inspire, or both. Be very clear about that.
No, that's fine. So you get half of this table since you didn't. I will ask the candidates to do what they did a moment ago, and we'll start here, work our way around. Just introduce yourself, tell everyone what you're running for, and why you chose to get Wallace Student Government.
Hi, my name's Lauren Keeler, and I'm running for representative at large for CUSG. And government this year because as my final year here at CU, I've been inspired all throughout my 4 years here at CU to do more for my community and get really involved. And so I wanted to continue that.
My name is Nate Walshine. I'm a third-year law student. I'm running for representative at large. I've never done student government before, but I've been involved for the past year or so with the Environmental Center. I'm sitting on the Environmental Center board, and I wanted to take this opportunity. I was asked to run, and I wanted to take this opportunity to go ahead and show my support for Inspire, and also to try to make this university a better place.
Hi, my name is Chelsea Miller. I'm running under the Pulse ticket for the Representative at Large position. I'm running for CUSG because I am very involved at CU Boulder. I'm very active on campus, and now is my time to have my voice heard and make a difference with all these activities. I'm excited.
Good evening, everyone. I'm glad that you all came tonight. My name is Benjamin Leeds. I'm currently a representative at large and speaker of the Representative Council, and I'm running for representative at large again. And the reason that I'm running is because I believe that every student here deserves to have their voice heard. And I think through CU student government is one of the best ways that we can do that. In addition to that, I think every student on this campus that wants to come study here deserves to have a safe space in order to learn. And I will work with CU student government tirelessly to make sure we have a safe space and be a personal role model to that effect.
Hi everyone, my name is Carmen Bajwa. I'm a sophomore. I'm currently on Leeds Council, and the reason why I'm running for CUSG is because I represent a lot of clubs and organizations here on campus, and I would like to voice the different opinions and perspectives throughout CU.
Hi everyone, my name is Antonio Bricco, and I'm running for student government, or I'm running for representative at large tonight because I've worked with many student groups, and I believe that there's complaints everyone has or things that people want to change, and I believe through new creative ideas that can happen.
Hi everyone, I'm Martin Montes. I currently serve on the Arts and Sciences Student Government Board as their Vice President. Last year I became involved as a freshman, saw a lot of injustices on campus, and I thought to get involved to make that change, and I am here today as a testament to show that I want to create proactive change and encourage our peers to engage in the change that they want to see.
With that, the first question. This may sound like a simple question, but what I'm going to ask the candidates to keep in mind is we're asking for one specific thing. It doesn't have to be the only one specific thing, but pick your favorites right now. Please give one specific role that you feel student government should fill on campus. 3 minutes.
Okay, so I think the specific role of student government should obviously be representing the student body. I think that that is our most important duty as leaders of student government. That being said, what Inspire inspires to do is to listen to what students have to say, to survey students, to hold office hours. For controversial things, we will be holding hearings and things like that so that we can actually hear what the students want as opposed to guessing or making up, or not making up, but listening to a select group of students and making decisions based off of that. We really want to hear a diverse group of students and then make decisions based on that. Like I said, I think that representing students is huge, and that comes down to accountability. When you vote for Inspire, you're voting for all of these individuals. You're not voting for their permanent proxies. Last fall, 5 people were elected, and of those 5, 0 are still currently on legislative council. That being said, when you're voting for us, you're voting for these individuals. We'll come to all of the meetings. We will be there, and we will be representing the students to the best of our ability.
So, as a couple things, going off that student groups, we're trying to represent the student body, and we have a framework for doing that, and that's something I think that you're going to see is going to be very valuable moving forward. We have these 5 tenets. We have accountability, transparency, safety, student groups. It's built on this idea of creating a methodology and framework for plugging in that student input and feeding that input back so that we can actually get some real results and get something moving forward. I know I only have 1 year here left, and I would really like to see, a lot of things, especially towards environmental policy, change at this university. And so having that framework and having that clear state of mind and that clear methodology surrounding what we're going to do as a platform is really going to be important.
Just about at time, so 2-minute response.
I would first like to say, I really like what the Inspire ticket was saying, and I want to go off that because that is something that we have always believed and we will continue to believe. This is transparency. This is our one thing, having students' voices heard. And you may ask, how are we going to do this? How are we going to have students' voices heard? Well, last week we had the marijuana symposium. We will continue to hold symposiums. We will continue to have town hall meetings like the Recreation Center town hall meeting that's being held tomorrow. Because we want to hear students' voices. We want to know what you think. We want you to be educated. And also, we want to work with cost centers and student groups because those are the students, those are the students that are involved and they want change. They're involved in these groups. They're on campus. Their voices have to be heard, and we want to hear them.
Yeah, and in addition to that, a huge contentious issue coming up is how we handle 420 on this campus, and that's a great thing that student government can work with. And the goal is to continue to have surveys, to get students' input, see what they want, go off of last year, what would you like to see change? Make student government a conduit for student voices to be heard and for the change that they wish to see in their campus enacted.
Along with, I agree with Chelsea and everything they said, and also Pulse administration has also been in very good contact with CU administration. So we listen to all the voices through different clubs and organizations, and then we actually take action and talk to CU administration about everything.
30 seconds. Anybody wants to?
Well, a big part of our ticket this year, we really want to connect students. When we all came in here, we were doing speeches, we want to connect students. And so that's a big part, and that's how we can really voice the opinions of the students here on campus.
Second question, directed toward the Pulse ticket first. Do you believe that the rising tuition costs are a problem? And whatever your answer is, how would you use your seat as a student legislator to address that issue? 3 minutes.
If you guys would like to go first. I would just like to say, Pulse Ticket in the past has been the only ticket that has been at the state capitol of Denver, wanting their voices heard to create change at the state level because tuition is not entirely controlled by CUSG. It's actually funding we get from the state. So yes, this is a problem, and how we can fix it is continue tradition of being there, being active, and getting change done.
We also believe we want to cut our tuition down. But by cutting it down, we don't want to cut down the programs that we think are helping the students out, that the students want. Many of these would be Rec Center student jobs, club sports, cultural events board, because in last spring, the old ticket on the 2012 budget cycle sought to cut down $150,000. And that cut down a lot of cost centers and cut down things like I was saying, club sports. And it did save students a grand total of $2. And so we don't believe that by cutting down the tuition, that we should be cutting programs that students want and that they can't do it forced. They're here to do it.
We think education should be affordable and accessible for all. I don't know if you all know this, but Colorado is 50th out of 50 states to fund public institutions. So what we're proposing to do is lobby the legislation and hold them accountable. Currently, there's some drawbacks because of Taxpayer Bill of Rights and also Amendment 23 that we're working with. So as the Pulse ticket, we believe that education is a right, and we'll continue to host conversations and dialogue that will gauge what we need to do as a ticket.
And all that being said, we do realize, in listening to the Chancellor's State of the Campus address this morning, that having no higher education funding from Colorado is a very real possibility. And while we will work as hard as we can to lobby at the state level for that funding, we know that in the event that this happens, it's going to be a coming together as a school, as a university, working together to continue to provide services and to these students that we do, regardless of what higher education funding is.
Inspire, 2 minutes to respond. Do you want the question again? Okay. Do you believe that rising tuition costs are a problem? And if so or if not, regardless of answer, how would you use your seat as a student legislator to address the issue?
I definitely believe that personally, the rising tuition costs are a problem. As a student here at CU, I pay for my own tuition. My parents do not help me, and I have to take out student loans. And as a graduating student, I will graduate with over $200,000 in debt, and that is an extremely overbearing load to have to graduate with. And I believe on CU student government that the Inspire ticket will continue to focus on efficiency and also lowering cost centers. And we're going to continue to lower student fees because we believe that if we lower student fees and continue to make them more efficient, that can be the difference between someone that can come to CU and afford to come here, between someone, the difference between someone who can come here and afford to come here rather than someone who can't because the tuition's too high because student fees are not being allocated correctly.
Lastly, I just want to address what the other side said. They said that the other ticket, they referred to the other ticket trying to raise student fees or cut student fees for about $150,000. I would just like to point out that our name is Inspire and the other ticket was Invest. Secondly, I would also like to point out that they say that they want to continue to maintain student fees and all of that, but they voted to rise student fees for every single cost center last year. And those records are made public, so I encourage you all to go ahead and take a look at those and look at the voting. Thank you.
Our third question sounds like it's going to be a hot topic. It'll go to Inspire. It's about student fees. I was going to start by telling you to get in your minds, decide what side you're on, in favor of cutting or not. But I think it sounds like everybody's made up their mind. So here's the question. Are you in favor of it? Depending on your answer, what do you say to those who suggest that cutting student fees will negatively impact university cost centers?
All right. Well, you know, I think what I was talking about earlier was that methodology, and that's kind of what we're trying to bring. It's not so much we don't want to. We don't want to cut cost centers. We don't want to cut, student fees unnecessarily for a $2 savings on something that, necessarily wouldn't be the best idea. What we want to do is take an independent look at everything that's in the student budget. We want to take a look at it and put some sort of methodology behind it, put some sort of cost-benefit analysis around it. And using that type of idea, that's how we're going to actually, figure out how to balance student fees and affordability with a vocational degree, with a degree that's actually going to equip everyone, all the students, for a real, chance at getting a good job after they graduate. Because that's what this is about. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you really, learning for a higher education standard is very important. But learning for a job is, really the most vital, especially in today's economy. Thanks.
I also think that in terms of lowering student fees, we're not looking to cut student groups or anything like that. We're looking to find inefficiencies in the cost centers and make them more efficient. You guys are going to ask how that works, and unfortunately, that boils down to the cost centers. The cost centers can do internal analysis and find those inefficiencies. Like-minded tickets have asked them to do it in the past, and they found those inefficiencies and cut those student fees and made CU a more affordable place to go to school. That being said, one example that we have off the top of our head is the Student Group Funding Board. The Student Group Funding Board has a $1.1 million fund balance, and we think that that's great and that they should totally put that towards student fees, towards student groups, but we don't want to continue to give them money while they're using that fund balance. That's an example of a place where we cannot give them that money for this year and still have a cut in student fees. That's an inefficiency that already exists that we're trying to look to cut. That being said, we're not cutting student groups, we're not cutting their funding. We're saying, hey, you have a $1.1 million fund balance, let's use that, and then we'll revisit it in the future when that fund balance has been depleted. Thanks.
20 seconds if you want to add it. Your response, 2 minutes.
All right, with regard to student fees, we do not want to cut cost centers. And I'd first like to talk to you. I am a student coordinator and facility supervisor at the Recreation Center. We lost an entire board positions of our door staff this last year because of cost cuts in our cost center, and that is just not fair. We also got cut club sports, and honestly, like as a manager and as a student employee of a cost center, I do not agree with this. I'd like to go through to say that the other ticket says we are not inspired, or we are not invest, we are inspired. In their platform, they worked with the rec center. We proposed the buck up the rec 2 years ago. So are you inspired or are you invest is my question. I would also like to say, we would like to work with these cost centers for cost benefit analysis. As the ASSG said earlier, we want to increase programming, but we also want to increase efficiency on campus.
Tagging along to what Chelsea was saying, you know, when we hear like, we want to cut costs, like, yeah, I want to cut costs. I don't want to pay as much money. But what are they cutting? They're cutting these cost centers that everyone goes to. Like almost, what was it, 85% of the school uses the rec center. Not to mention that, but to go along with cutting programs and, you know, cost centers and club sports and whatnot, and you guys say that, yeah, you guys are a different ticket, and yeah, that's great, but, you know, you had a candidate on the last ticket that voted to cut these centers. So how can you guys say you guys are a new ticket and not happy?
And real quick, one of the representatives was talking about cutting fees in order for efficiency. How are student jobs not efficient? Are they inefficient? Student jobs are really important here on campus, and they provide jobs for all students, and they're really important to keep. So therefore, not only cutting them, but keeping them stable as well.
All right, the last question goes back to reaching across the aisle, working across the aisle. To polls first, you'll have 3 minutes. How would you build coalitions with other members of Legislative Council, particularly members of another ticket, in attempts to put aside differences for the benefit of CU and the students?
So
It's your turn.
So we've already begun to do that. A lot of our members sit on different boards. We want to go to different funding boards and see how they operate, if it's different from our funding boards. We looked at perspective techniques on which we can use to make our funding process more efficient.
And also, a lot of the other students on the other ticket have also voted with Pulse on Legislative Council in the past. So it's all about representing the students, not necessarily on what ticket you are, because this is not some sort of political affiliation. It's about how we're going to represent the students. And in the past, other tickets have voted with Pulse.
And I believe whenever you're addressing any sort of problem, whether that's in politics or, you know, just in your everyday life, you can't just look at the negatives of both sides. You gotta do the positives and what you agree on. Because if you don't, then nothing's gonna happen. And in the end, we're all here for CU and trying to improve it. And I'm sure, like, I know it's fire, you guys have great things on your platform. And by working together, we can create a better CU.
And also another thing, sorry. Also, we have a lot of people from different tickets on many of the colleges, on the Leeds Council, on engineering, and we all work together, and each one of those schools has senators that represent the school, and we all work together, and then that's how we make decisions in Legislative Council, so we are pretty much working together.
Because we're here on campus, we try to stray away from the various national political gridlock that you have all seen in the last years. We're students, we're not politicians, you know, let's work on the micro scale and let's let the politicians work on the macro scale.
And also the other ticket MS talks about transparency with students and throughout other colleges. But we already do have transparency. Going back to what I was saying, we all represent, both tickets represent different parts of the school, and together we, again, make decisions on Legislative Council.
I'd like to end with this question, just saying that we're not a political party, we are a movement, and we want everyone to join our movement, and we want to create change.
You all finished? Inspire, 2 minutes. You want the question? Okay. How would you build coalitions with other members of Legislative Council, particularly members of another ticket, in attempts to put aside differences for the benefit of CU and the students?
Well, I think you did a really great job of summing up the gridlock that we see in our current Congress, and that's not what we're looking to do as students here at CU. I think that was a really great summary. Being on my sororities executive board, I've had to work with 300 different girls' opinions, and working together to try to figure out what is the best for us as a whole, I think is really important. And as Inspire, we look to do that as well within CUSG.
So we'll start with Inspire. This is something we haven't discussed tonight. I think it's important. And I've added just a little bit to it to include something from another question as well. Inspire candidates, do any of your reps at large identify as people of color or queer students? If not, how can you achieve your #1 goal of representing every student at CU? As soon as somebody starts speaking, we'll start the clock. You got 2 minutes. Absolutely. So, do any of your reps at large identify as people of color or queer students? If not, how can you achieve your #1 goal of representing every student?
Thanks. All right. Well, we have 2 minutes to answer this. I'm not a queer student or a student who is of any other race, a white male. I have to admit, we're going to try to listen to everyone. We're going to try to take everyone into account. And it's not, I don't think you necessarily have to be part of the group to understand the way a group thinks or to understand the intentions or necessary, whatever a group really needs. That's fine. We can address everyone's priorities, we can address everyone's concerns, and we can make sure that everyone has a seat at that table. And, so I think we're going to be able to take it into account everyone's views without really any worries.
I think going along those lines, you also don't have to be a queer student or a student of color to be able to represent those students. We're able to listen here at the So at the same time, we're definitely, here to represent all of the student body, and we are able to do that with open minds and open hearts, and represent ourselves as well as represent all of the students here on campus.
And just to reiterate here, we are not a ticket running on preconceived notion of trying to fund a certain group on campus, certain population on campus. We are running for the entire student population as a whole. We represent everyone equally and fairly.
Pulse, do you have anything you want to stick on this for 1 minute?
I would just like to add, I also identify as a white female. I am straight. But the difference is there's so much more diversity, and that's why we represent so many people. I'm also Jewish, and I'm part of the largest minority at CU Boulder, as large as the Greek community. But it's also, if I was Greek, that's part of diversity. I mean, whatever I'm involved with, it makes me representative at CU Boulder, and I want to represent my people and everyone else on my campus.
And speaking as a queer student on this campus, I want to address safety and I want to address diversity, because even within the group of queers on campus, there's a variety of backgrounds, ethnic groups, like mental, people come from a lot of different places, and their opinions need to be addressed, and they can't be taken in from an outsider's perspective. I'm sorry, but that's just not how it's worked in this country, and it's not functioning right now, and our student government needs to be accountable and transparent.
Just about time. or Pulse. Any of the Pulse candidates can answer it. You'll have 2 minutes. The Inspire ticket made a comment earlier about the representatives at large who were last elected, stating that some of them no longer sit as reps at large. Can you explain how those elected members are now repositioned and still represent student voices?
Well, to whoever in the audience asked that question, I'm really glad to be able to talk about this now and clear this up. And so we're talking about 5 representatives at large who were elected a year ago in the fall, and those, I can tell you where each of those representatives is and how they help student government. First, let's start with Representative Obermiller. Before she went on study abroad, she was Legislative Council President and started this 77th session with a bang, got Legislative Council in order, and oversaw the passing through of some sweeping reforms. That brings me to the person who appointed me, my permanent proxy position, Representative Chalker. She has graduated, and that's why she's no longer a representative. But before she graduated this summer, she did not have to continue working on CUSG, even though she was no longer a representative and I had taken her place. Instead, she chose to be on CUSG, passed her sweeping student group funding board and student fee regulation reform that, may I remind you, passed Legislative Council with a unanimous vote, even though Pulse is not every seat on that council. And moving on to Brittany, Representative Hernandez, our student body president. And to add to that, she still sits on Legislative Council. She may not have a vote, but do not worry about your voice not being representative. She can still speak. And lastly, Representative Harrison Draker, who is now a cabinet-level member of the executive staff, co-director of diversity. Your representatives who have appointed permanent proxies from the last election, they are not gone. They are still working, and they are still representing your voice to this day. Thank you.
Inspire, I'll give you a minute to respond if you want it.
Great. I would just like to respond to that really quickly. That's just looking at the exterior again. I think it's great that those people are still involved with student government, and that's was not what I was trying to get at. What I am trying to get at is who made those decisions to have those proxies. No students were involved. Those were your voices, your decisions, choosing your proxies. That's not representation. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to the next question directed to Inspire. Again, same format, 2 minutes. Open to anybody, ASSG or CUSG candidates. What is meant by the statement that you want to make CUSG better? Why do you want to make it better? What's lacking, and how will you make it better?
Well, I'll start. I mean, as we reiterated throughout the night, our point is efficiency. We feel this is not just about getting an education. It's about learning how to live life, how to get a vocational degree, how to actually function in today's society. If you're paying way too much money to be doing this, if there's some sort of efficiency within our system right now, it's not going to work like that. We are here to make the best experience possible for your money at CU. So when we say we're making CU better and CUSG better, we're making sure that we are allocating efficiencies, we're allocating our resources efficiently, and making sure that we have everything all on the same page, that we can allocate those all out to efficient resources. And not only that, we also want to make sure that all of our student groups are represented, every group on campus represented. We are not singling out any sort of group to represent or allocate more funds to. But as we make CUSG better, that means we make the entire student population better. We are not helping one student group, we are not helping everything. We are trying to make everything more efficient as a whole to make sure that our entire student experience benefits.
Along those lines, we also want to streamline student group funding processes. That's something that's very specific to CUSG, and that's making CUSG better, not just CU as a whole better. That's something that we're really passionate about, that we really feel like the students, it should be made more accessible to the students, that the dates should be made more visible, and that's, again, just something that's very specific to CUSG.
Give a little more time if you want.
I think we've talked a lot tonight about what inspires us, but let me tell you what doesn't inspire me. What doesn't inspire me is being part of the boomerang generation, which is where our parents send us out and we come right back in because we can't get jobs after college. We're supposed to have a higher education to get a better job. And as Inspire, we want to inspire you to have better opportunities, and that is how we are going to make this campus better, by bringing those opportunities to CUSG.
You got a minute if you want it. Anybody else want to?
So I wanted to touch on, could you actually repeat the question?
Absolutely. So the question was basically, what does the Inspire ticket mean when they say that they're going to make CUSG better? Why do they want to make it better? What's lacking? And how will they make it better?
Okay, so I want to rebuttal, but also touch on the question. Something that was brought up a lot was transparency, but it wasn't exactly clear how that was done. I helped coordinate, along with my other candidates, last week, Your Pulse, Your Platform, because we are not about to create a platform for students that haven't given us their voice. It's just not feasible. Also, we are the only ticket that provides primaries so that anyone can run. Because we're not going to just appoint anyone. They talk about representation. We want to represent the student body.
I'd just like to point out that we don't only give money as a student government. We also do other things like foster an inclusive campus climate, working with administration, working with legislators, making the CU experience whole.
Yeah, it's not all monetary. We have to remember the well-being of our students and actually hear what they have to say.
This one will go to the Pulse ticket. Just remind you, anybody is encouraged to answer. Any candidate. Pulse, do you believe that you have been successful as a ticket in communicating and informing the student body about current CU issues and your role in addressing them? If not, how will you reach out and represent better the common student? 2 minutes.
So transparency was a big issue for us last year, before the previous administration, before the Pulse got into office. There was a lousy administration. There was no transparency at all. The students didn't know what was going on. I was a freshman on this campus that has a student government that controls $37 million, and I didn't know about it. You know, the transparency wasn't there. So we've been able to send out memos for executive positions in this current administration. We had 80 applicants for 20 positions. That's outstanding. That's the most we've had in the past couple of years.
And determining our platform, we had a rally to go around, ask students, what do they want? We were out there in front of the UMC saying, what change do you want in your school? That's how we built our platform, And with 420 and other issues like that, last year, there's a lot of controversy over, why did that happen? We spent a lot of money, and now we're having symposiums to debate both sides, and
we're definitely trying to open up the dialogue between students, administrators, the community members, and something that I wouldn't say that we're struggling with, but we are working towards is bridging the gap between getting all students informed. We have over 30,000 students on this campus, and if we don't start with the student body and letting our peers, lead by example, then we can't bridge that gap.
30 seconds left if anybody wants it.
Okay, so another thing how Pulse has helped in the previous is 420. Actually, real quick on a small note, Pulse administration actually tomorrow is meeting with CU administration to talk about, to begin discussing April 2013 about 420, and we've also hosted the 420 symposium, which to start the conversation about marijuana.
You got a minute.
Okay, I'll just begin here. To reiterate, we are not past parties. We are not invest. We are not in power. We are Inspire. We want to inspire this campus. Also, I'm not playing on any names, but just on the terms of transparency, because positions for executive staff were brought up by the Pulse. Just from my own personal experience, I applied this year to be on executive staff for multiple positions. I did not even receive an email that my application was confirmation. To me, that is not transparency.
About 30 seconds if you want.
Well, I should say additionally, I'm a senior, and like all of my 4 years of being a student here at CU, I've had very little interaction with my student government, especially recently when I was on my Greek exec board last semester, and we are a student group here on campus. When I would try to host events on campus and try to get any additional funding, that was never happened or was ever allocated to me, and I was never told why.
I've decided to, there's one more each for aimed at both tickets, but I actually believe that both sides will have clear views on these, so I'm going to give each ticket 2 minutes to address these next 2 questions. Let's start with last time. So we'll go over here first. Aimed at anyone. What programs and or policies or events do you have in mind in order to bridge the gap that both tickets have talked about tonight between each of the colleges? So perhaps this is an ASSG question. Two minutes.
So as someone who served as the senator for Leeds School of Business, I think that this is really critical, and I think that it's really important to bridge those gaps. I felt a lot of times that it was sort of CUSG Leeds Council, and they never really combined. And so I think that starts with the senators. That starts with conversations in both of those rooms. That starts with the senators, having those conversations in legislative council and bringing them back to their school or their college. That also starts with, representation on all different boards. That starts with representation on the health board, on the e-board, as well as all those colleges and schools. And then it goes more, and it goes to programs and events and things like that we can have. I would love to include the colleges and schools councils on, some of the socials that CUSG does and stuff like that. I think that those conversations are important, and I think that it's really important that the people on the colleges and school councils feel just as welcome and just as important as the people on CUSG. Because ultimately we're all, going towards one greater goal of making CU a better place. And I think that the only way we can do that is through those conversations and through really getting to know each other.
About 45 seconds.
As a student actually running for the ASSG position, I think that simply we will make the effort to have the conversations. Inspire as a ballot will make the effort to have those conversations with the Leeds Council or the advisory board for the engineering school and with CUSG, because we're not here to only make the ASSG board ASSG Arts and Sciences School a better place. We're here to make CU a better place, and we're not going to do that as Arts and Sciences representatives alone.
Like I said, I've wielded my power to change the rules a little bit. Pulse, you've got 2 minutes now. Same question. What programs and or policies or events do you have in mind in order to bridge the gaps between each of the colleges?
So we noticed that this was a huge problem at the university, and we're all students here, and getting to know different departments, different colleges is actually beneficial. You might find something that you like. Recently, we've started dialogue with the new dean. His name is Dr. Lay. We want to bring the different departments together by providing academic inquiry. That means like interrelations for schools and educational opportunities. For instance, the Leeds School of Business has proposed a business minor for the Arts and Sciences School. So we'll continue to have that dialogue open. However, we haven't had much success because the other people on different boards have not been able or willing to cooperate.
We also want to talk about with working with other people within Legislative Council. So it consists of 9 senators and 9 representatives at large, which means that those 9 senators come from these other schools, and they're allowed to speak, they're allowed to vote, like they have just as much say as the reps at large, which are going to be our positions. And we encourage that. We want people to vote. We want to hear what the other senators have opinions on. So the key here is communication, and the key here is having that communication heard in Leeds Council, Ledge Council, and I just wanted to say that we have a Leeds Council representative. She's working with us, and it's people like her that get involved with our ticket of diverse students that can make a difference.
And actually, being on Leeds Council right now, there was a lot of controversy last term with the affiliations between CUSG and Leeds Council. There were a lot of compromises that had to be made, and that is when Alexis Stobbe was a senator on Leeds Council. So one of our main goals is to make better transparency and create better goals and just make sure that there's voices that are heard.
This next question also is going to come with a 2-minute response from each ticket. Start with Pulse. Name one state legislator and one member of the Board of Regents who you can see yourself working with while you're in office.
So one thing that you have to know about me is that I come from a small town and politics were taboo before I came here. A senator, a Colorado legislator, his name is Raleigh Heath. He was the original sponsor for Prop 103, which would essentially increase taxes for all Coloradoans by the minimalist amount, but would raise millions of dollars for higher education. I was also on a conference call with many people in Washington with Regent Joe Neguse about keeping higher education affordable, accessible, and fighting for federal aid such as the Pell Grant, because I myself am a recipient of the Pell Grant, and I would not be able to be here at this institution if I did not receive that. So what we're trying to do, if we get elected, and some of our people on our administration have already done, is created this dialogue, opening up, because essentially what Chancellor DeStefano said, that we have to let the state invest in us because we're already investing in the state. Thank you.
About 45 seconds if anybody wants to add anything.
Well, I'd just like to add, in the spirit of collaboration, this past semester, CUSG has hosted a Regent open house where almost all the regents attended, and any student we sent out invitations could come and talk to their regents and get their issues across and see what they were working on in the spirit of collaboration. That's just one of the things that Pulse has done and will continue to do to increase transparency and the amount of work that we can get done with.
Inspired. Name one state legislator and one member of the Board of Regents that you can see yourself working with in office. 2 minutes.
Okay, well. Hi, thank you, Tim. First off, I don't know how many of you guys know this, but Melissa Hart actually ran for state regent last year, or 2 years ago. She ran during my civil procedure class, and she split the time between civil procedure and teaching, for us, and then also trying to run. Unfortunately, she didn't eventually win, but it kind of got me heavily involved in that process, and I got to really learn what a state regent does. And so for all of you that aren't aware, a state regent is basically a elected position that is going to oversee the university. And so as a student representative at large, or as anybody really working in any position of power at the university, you're going to be working with the state regent in some type of formal or informal way, because their job is to be directly involved. So one of the representatives, one of the regents that I really look up to is Mr. Ludwig. He's an entrepreneur, he's a successful entrepreneur, and the guy is just a rock star in telecommunications, and it's something of a personal interest to me. My father did fiber optic to the home, and so it's a very personal issue. But I would very much look forward to working with him in the future. And then you want to talk about the state representative?
Yeah, I want to talk briefly about another region as well. Steve Bosley, who I've talked to personally and who I'd really look forward to working with. He's come to talk to the PLC and really encourages young leaders to get involved and to voice their opinion. That being said, we're in a time of election right now, so we're not really sure who we would want to be working with. We want to talk to House leadership once we figure out who the representatives will be. So that being said, I know it's a little vague, but that's something we're adamant about just because we want to see who's elected.
We had about 5 audience questions revolving around this topic, so want to make sure we get it in. 2 minutes again for each ticket. Open to anybody. Inspire, we'll start with you. It's going to be the shortest question of the night. What's your plan for 420?
Okay, so there's currently a resolution that's already been passed about 420. That being said, we're open to hearing what the students have to say. We're obviously not going to make any promises or anything like that. We do honor that resolution, and we will, have that stand as long as the students want that. That being said, we're here to represent the students, so we want to hear what they have to say. We want to hold more open houses, stuff like that, so we can really hear their opinion. Along those lines, we think that 420 last year got a lot of bad media because of the money that was spent towards the concert in conjunction with the 420 rally or whatever you want to call it. We don't intend on spending $100,000 on a concert by any means. We do intend on listening to what the students have to say, listening to the students if they want to have something like that, and then acting upon those, their voices.
Got about 45 seconds if anybody wants to talk about their 420. That was not implying that you have to. 30 seconds. No?
We're good.
Okay. Pulse, what's your plan for 420?
Okay. So I appreciate the other ticket and how they would like to hear the student opinions, but Pulse has already started hearing the opinions of students. Actually, Pulse put up, as I was talking about before, the Marijuana Symposium, which is going to start the conversation of 420. And also, the police presence costs around $60,000 to $80,000, and the concert, like she said, costs around $100,000. And what essentially we want to do is represent the students. So what we're going to do from here on is, throughout these months, we're going to survey the students and hear what they want to say, because we do understand there's a lot of students, and some are against it and some are for it. And also, like I was saying before, Pulse administration will be talking with CU administration tomorrow to start the conversation about 420 next year. So that's what Pulse has already done, and we're going to be taking surveys, and we will do anything to represent the student body and how they feel about 420, because it's not about what we think, but what the students think.
About the same amount of time, 45 seconds.
So we feel that in the past, it hasn't really been evaluated in what the Pulse administration has done. As you know, put on the Marijuana Symposium to educate students about the pros and cons of smoking marijuana or having them on campus. Here, about a year ago, last semester, the previous administration just sat at a table and were basically dictating different answers for the whole student body. And I don't think that was fair, and that's why further research needs to be done. Even though we are trying to decrease that stigma that CU is a party school, let it be known that 420 mainly consists of community members, and like I stated before, has not been properly evaluated to its fullest capacity.
I'm going to make this the last question tonight because I want to give both sides a chance for closing remarks. And I've got what's widely known as the worst handwriting on the planet. Whoever wrote on this card has the second worst. So bear with me, make sure that I get this right. We'll go to Pulse first for 2 minutes. Both tickets mentioned a commitment to keep fees low, but will we invest in infrastructure with millions of dollars of deferred maintenance and still be able to keep those fees low? 2 minutes.
I think that's a great question to ask. Construction on this campus is really important, and where the Pulse stands on investing in these things, first of all, you cannot, as far as student fees are concerned, do you know that we cannot assess student fees for construction without a referendum on a student government election? This is for Board of Regents policy. So know that no candidate can just slap a fee on you for construction. But investing in infrastructure, that is a serious need. As someone who sits on the UMC board, we recently found that we're investing pennies to the nationwide average dollars in infrastructure to keep our UMC running on the inside, behind the scenes. And so the Pulse will listen to students and will rally students behind improving our campus, not just for those of us who are here now, but for those of us who are coming in the future. Think of if the students in the past did not pay student fees and invest in infrastructure for buildings like the UMC, like the Rec Center. If we didn't have those services, then what would our experience be like today? So just letting students know that when they are investing in their school, they're not only investing in their experience and themselves, but in the education and experience of future students.
And if the time allows, I just want to bring up an example of how this money is used for infrastructure. Within the Recreation Center, the construction that was passed, it addresses nearly $25 million in deferred maintenance. And I can attest to this as someone who works in equipment checkout. Getting dripped on by an ice rink is not enjoyable. So now we have an actual plan, that's a construction plan, that will be paid for in the next 25 years, and it doesn't go into effect right now. It only affects students that will use it. And that's what's important, is that we use these bonds so that our future can be better for the future students and the future people of the job force.
And additionally, Pulse will work to make sure that students who did pay in student fees to buildings that were constructed, for example, capital construction, are given easy access to those services. For example, the Atlas building is 85% funded by student fees. Is it easy to go study in that building? No. Thank you.
Inspire, same question. Both tickets have mentioned a commitment to keep fees low. The question is, will we invest in infrastructure with millions of dollars of deferred maintenance and still be able to keep those fees low? 2 minutes.
So we do as a ticket think further infrastructure of our campus is really important. But there are other ways to cut student fees with not cutting infrastructure. For example, the year that we took it to vote for Buff Up the Rec that the students all decided upon, we also cut the student fees were also cut that same year while we were still pushing for new infrastructure on our campus. So still get new infrastructure, but still allocate in other areas where we can make student fees less.
More than a minute left if you want.
So like she said, it's not really one or the other. It's not really a trade-off. It's not really, you have to lower student fees and you can't put any new buildings on campus. There are other ways to lower student fees. There are other ways to make CU more affordable. And so I think that's where this comes in. It's not, again, it's not, we're not cutting student groups. We're not cutting cost centers. I don't think we've ever really cut a cost center. But anyway, that's up for another debate. But the thing is, I think that it's a trade-off. And so we can lower student fees, but we can still continue to build great buildings and do all of that. Like Lauren pointed out, that the year that Buff Up the Rec was passed, student fees were cut. So I strongly feel like we can make both of those happen.
I'm going to give each candidate an opportunity to just make a closing appeal. So as we took 30 seconds at the beginning of the night to introduce yourselves, I'm going to ask everybody to stand up in their group, and I'll give you all 45 seconds this time. Remind potential voters and reporters of your name, what you're running for, and take 45 seconds to make a personal appeal of why you should be voted for. Since Pulse kicked us off, we'll let Inspire start with this one.
Okay, just as a reminder, my name is Coco Wong. I am a freshman here at the University of Colorado, and I'm running for ASSG representative. I am very passionate about this election because I am excited to be a part of Inspire, which represents freshmen through graduate students in both ASSG and CUSG. And I think that's very important to the school as a community. And I'm passionate to have the underclassmen's voice heard and to make CU a better place.
Okay, once again, I'm Ashley Prince, sophomore running for ASSG. At the end of the day, I have an open heart and an open mind to listen to whoever is going to come and talk. I'm willing to listen to anybody, I think, as a lot of my ticket is. So I just want what's best for CU at the end of the day.
And my name is Tyler Hallmark, and I'm an ASSG representative. And I just want to touch on a question that was brought up earlier about the diversity, and it was directed towards our candidates in a way that we don't look diverse. The thing is, I identify as a Native American. In fact, on November 10th, I'm putting on a workshop for minorities in the state of Colorado. I also live on campus, as does Coco, and another one of our candidates, Katie, and so we can represent a large portion of our student body by just representing the student body, people that live on campus, and the events that they bring. Howlett with the GLBTQ Alliance there, and so many other ways. And I just want to let you know that I am involved in many ways that way. Bye-bye.
How about Pulse ASSG candidates?
So just to remind you, my name is David Zimmerman. I represent a lot on this campus. I represent 3 departments with a triple major. I'm an executive position in over 2 different student groups. I'm a residential assistant and also represent students on this campus, and I'm a leader amongst them. And I really feel that I'm that I come from a background that would make me qualify for this position. Thank you.
Once again, my name is Jerome Castellan. I'm running for ASSG representative. And not only do I feel passionate about listening to what students have to say, I am also willing to reach out to students that necessarily won't speak up their mind.
So as a reminder, my name is Magnolia Landa Cosas, and I'm a freshman as well, running for ASSG. I represent a minority, I represent women, and I represent those of us that have been lied to, saying that this was a diverse and culturally accepted campus, and I arrived here to notice that it's not, and also to notice that freshmen aren't considered even though we are on campus. Very little communication is brought to us from the beginning, and I think that's the major part for why so many of us are lost and don't ever reach the goals that we seek at the beginning. So I'm here to represent all of those, and I want to make the change.
Once again, I'm Melissa McFarland. I think I'd be a great candidate because I have a lot of friends that are from different cultures and backgrounds, and I want to be able to speak for them and create things that will eventually happen beneficially for them.
Again, my name is Tony Vea, and I'm a candidate for the Arts and Sciences Student Government. And on our ticket, I'm the sole Greek member. And I feel that as a representative ticket, that's our platform, that we need to represent all facets of this community. And being that 10% of the school is Greek life, our 10% of our ticket is Greek. So I think I represent pretty well. And along with our Greek liaison, Derek Lynch, I feel like we can bridge the gap between the two communities.
Remarks from the Inspire CUSG candidates. 45 seconds.
Again, my name is Wesley Montag. I'm running for representative at large. So I forgot to mention earlier, aside from my involvement in CUSG last year, I am very well versed about the campus in multiple student groups as well as holding multiple executive positions. I'm also a member of the Greek community, and also I hold a work-study government employee position within the university, so I have that whole sort of running side from the university. So essentially, I just want to reiterate, I'm not targeting a certain group, I'm not targeting a student population of people. I'm here to represent you as a student body to do its best for the collective whole of this university.
Hi, my name is Maddie Sumeja. I am running for Rep at Large, and why I decided to run for Rep at Large is because, like I said earlier, I pay for my own tuition, and so how our money is allocated is very important to me, and I believe that, you know, even if we do reduce student fees, it doesn't mean that we are cutting cost centers or that, you know, we're cutting corners in any way, shape, or form. It means that we're just being more efficient with our money, and I believe at the end of the day that we want what's best for CU, and compromise is the ultimate way.
I'm Lauren Kuhn. I'm also running for Representative at Large. I think I'd be a good candidate. You're a good rep at large if I were elected for many reasons. I'm very, very passionate about what goes on this campus and how things work internally and how it influences what I pay here as a student and what my returns are when I graduate, which is very soon. So I'm very concerned about that, and I think because of that I have the best interest at heart for every student on this campus.
All right, my name is again Nate Walshine. I'm running for Representative at Large. You know, you're just getting a tremendous group of Inspire. You're really getting an all-star group. We're really committed. We're going to be sitting in every meeting. We're going to be there 100%, and we have the expertise. We have the passion. We really want to represent you. We want to hear from everyone, and we're just hoping, you know, to have the best CU we can possibly have.
My name's Alexis Scobie. I'm a junior and I'm running for Rep at Large. And I was really honestly hurt by that first question of question time. And I wrote it down because I knew I'd get a little shaky. But you don't have to be queer or a person of color or white to represent students on campus and make decisions that positively impact students of all backgrounds and all walks of life. That's something that I stand by, and that's something that I really am passionate about.
Finally, our Pulse CUSG candidate.
Hi, I'm Chelsea Miller, and I'm running for the Representative at Large position for CUSG, and I aspire to represent my student body. I've been involved in many things on campus. I was involved in RHA. I played for CU Women's Rugby. I was a writer for CU Independent. I work at the Rec Center. I'm the co-president for Hillel. I'm involved in Queer Initiative, the International Affairs Program, French Club. There's so many. So I can confidently say I am the pulse of campus. We are the pulse. This is your platform, so let's make a difference.
Hi everyone, I'm Martin Miramontes again, and coming from an environment of limited resources, I strongly believe in equal opportunity for all. That's my main mission running for CU Student Government. I'd like to reiterate that we cannot do this alone, and we welcome your ideas, your innovation to excel in whatever way possible here at your CU experience.
Hi, my name is Antonio Burka, and I'm running for Representative at Large, and I represent the CU rugby team, as well as I know many people that are on other club sports. I'm in the CU Active Entrepreneurs, as well as CU Startup, and so I can think of creative ways to make change that others might not have previously thought of, and I'm currently working on new ideas to help disabled students have access to the school through student government. And I would just like to take a little quote I got from Phil Stefano, our chancellor at the State of Campus address that was this morning. And he said, change is upon us, and we must not only embrace it, but we must lead it.
Hi everyone, my name is Carmen Bajwa. I'm running for Representative at Large for CUSG, and coming from an underrepresented community, I feel like it is my moral obligation to be involved with student government and increase involvement and promote diversity and speak for the communities that I'm in order to encourage the future generations. So I feel like I have a really crucial part in student government, and I hope I can continue to create a role model for all the future generations to come.
Hi again, everyone. My name is Benjamin Leeds, running for Representative at Large as well. queer engineering student on this campus. And to close, I just wanted to first thank everybody for coming tonight. We know you're busy, but this is what we've been talking about: representation, transparency, getting students involved. It's great to have this opportunity to discuss with the other ticket our different points of views and our like points of views, and have you all here to experience that. And I just want to go back to what Chelsea said and remind everyone that the Pulse is not a ticket, but it's a movement. We're here to represent you. It's your Pulse, your platform, and we will work tirelessly, if elected, and continue to do that each and every day. Thank you.
A couple of quick things from me. Thank you all who stuck it out with us to the very end tonight. Thank you to the candidates. I'll touch back on that in a minute. 2 shameless plugs real quick. Remember, there is a Regent debate tomorrow night, 6:30, Glenn Miller Ballroom. They're going to give you a little bit better food than cookies, I've heard. And another important event to be a part of. And thank you especially to the ASSG candidates. Your debate season is over, but CUSG candidates will be in Education 220 a week from tonight. During election week, there will be more to hear from them. And just on a personal note, I encourage you all to go out and vote. I encourage you all to make your voice heard. In my opinion, which has to remain unbiased, we've got exceptional student leaders on both sides here. And I'm honored and privileged to serve watching over their elections. I wish them the very best. And I have no doubt that whoever ends up victorious is going to lead exceptionally at the CUSG and ASSG levels, and whoever needs to run for something else is going to have great success as well. Thank you all for being here.